Yesterday in Proverbs chapter 5, we noted that the chapter talked about faithfulness in marriage. Here in chapter 6, verses 20 through 35, adultery is again addressed. Again, we'll look at this and other marriage issues later. This is a summary of the remainder of chapter 6. Verses 1 through 5 talk about co-signing on loans. Verses 6 through 10 talk about laziness. Verses 12 through 19 talk about the character and actions of a troublemaker. We see yet again that Solomon looks at very practical life issues. Let's look generally at co-signing on loans. The Bible calls it becoming surety or putting up surety. This is what we today call co-signing or standing good for a loan. This is something that I have only done once in my life, fairly recently. Before I did it, I prayed and God told me, what does my word say? The word tells us not to co-sign on loans numerous times. But I did it anyway, and I've regretted it to this day, actually. Many things that the Bible tells us are very practical. If we don't obey them, it probably won't directly send us to hell. These are things that we do for whatever reason. We think that it's a judgment call, but God has actually told us very particular things, what to do and not to do. And if we do those things, it actually helps our relationships with others, and it keeps us out of trouble. Co-signing on loans is one of these things. There are a few things to consider here. One thing is whether I myself should be going into debt at all, and is going into debt the right thing to do. If we don't go into debt ourselves, then when we are asked to co-sign on a loan, we can tell people that we don't agree with debt. If we get into debt ourselves, we have to have other reasons not to co-sign. Either way, co-signing is not a good idea. Co-signing is helping somebody get into debt. This can become a whole line of thinking that we pass on to others, and usually becomes a way of life for us or them or both. People we co-sign for are usually kids, friends of kids, relatives, neighbors, usually close people. It helps us and them to make poor choices, and it many times ends with bad feelings between us and that person that we co-sign for. In verses 1 through 5, we are told to run from co-signing, and if we have already done it, co-signed for somebody, to do whatever we can to get out of that situation.